Hi guys, welcome back. So it took a little bit of waiting, but we've got all the teams now out for the Rugby Championship Round 1, aka the preparation for the World Cup begins. Who's the most experimental? Well, it looks like South Africa are actually splitting their squads and they're going to send some off to New Zealand early. The Wallabies and also the All Blacks maybe in the middle, and Argentina possibly with the most settled team. Maybe they're going for another historic win against New Zealand. They've beaten them away last year. Now they want to beat them at home, so that's going to be absolutely huge. That's probably the tie of the round, actually, I think. But let's start with South Africa against Australia. Having a look at the visitors' team, the co-captains, a bit weird, but anyway, James Slipper has overcome a minor knock and he is starting Porecki and Alatoa. So that's probably the first choice front row. Not 100% sold on Porecki, so I'm going to be watching him quite carefully. The big boys in the second row, well, it's Frost and Big Will Skelton up first to make a big impact, and it's a physical team. Tom Hooper at blindside, he's a utility forward, but he's a big guy. It looks like Eddie Jones is going for a big bopping pack here to try and at least even it out with South Africa. Let's see how they go physically, who gets the dominance there, but a debut for Hooper at 6. Let's see how good he is with his namesake Michael Hooper, the other co-captain, at open side as normal, and they're starting number 8, Rob Valentini at 8. So it's possibly their best pack, maybe barring Hooper with an experiment there, but he's certainly a big 6. So very interesting to see how they match up against South Africa. Then it's the first choice halfbacks, that is no doubt there. Nick White and Quade Cooper, 100% their first choice. Then we've got in the centres, well, if in case of an emergency, you always bring Reece Hodge into whatever position it is, it seems, and he's filling in at inside centre. But we do have Samu Kerevi on the bench who will come on at some point, I'm sure, and when he's fully fit, he would definitely start at 12. Iki Tau at 13, Paisami not in the squad at all, of course. Now, interestingly, on the bench, we've got Carter Gordon. Now, he was always going to be on the bench because there's only 2 of them, but the interesting thing is it's his debut. And also there was a story today that Lolesio actually maybe might quit Australia altogether and head off to try and get his riches in Europe, in France. So that's an interesting one. I think they should have included Lolesio in the World Cup squad. I guess there's still time, but that might come back and bite them, actually. Anyway, on the wings, definitely a starter was Corambetti, he's in, but on the other wing was a player who I think could be their starter when I did my preview of the Wallabies training squad, Vunivalu from Rugby League. He's a big talent, let's see how he goes. And then the always exciting Tom Wright, never quite sure what he's going to do, but he is there at 15. And then the bench, we've mentioned a few of those guys. Tate McDermott having a crack at the backup 9 slot. And we might see big Richie Arnold making his debut from the bench as well. Let's have a look at this South African team. We've talked about it a bit in the preview show with Tim from Egg Chasers. Have a look at that if you haven't already. But it's a mixed bag really here of experience, of first choice, of backup players. Captained by Dwayne Vermeulen, the very experienced number 8. Kitsoff wasn't meant to be in this team. He was drafted in for an injury on Oxen Che. So it's an actually stronger front row and possibly their best front row. So that's a scary thought for Australia. Kitsoff, Mbanambi and Malherbe are just fantastic scrummaging unit for sure. Jean Klein. Yes, he's playing for Munster, but he's here for South Africa. He is South African. He's absolutely made up to be a Springbok now, so that's his debut. Also in the second row, we've got Marvin Orie, but he's only on 11 caps. Van Staden at blindside on 10, so some inexperience there. They're definitely not first choice. They're going to be fighting for their spots in that World Cup final squad of 33. Someone who's definitely going to be there and starting is Peter Steph Toy. Dwayne Vermeulen, he's got 65 caps, but he's not a definite starter at all, probably because of his age, but he can definitely fight for that starting spot with Visa, with Roos. And on the bench, we see Roos, the 6-2 split, of course, probably their best split, and Damian Willemse just makes that split perfect because he can play 10, 15 and centre very comfortably. The new 9 there with just 1 cap is Grant Williams. And then Fourie, big Snyman as well. And then the bomb squad there is Dweber, Dutoit and Koch. It's a really dangerous pack. Definitely the subs, the 6-2 split, make it even more dangerous. Yes, they're experimenting more than Australia, but I'm seeing a South Africa win here. Australia trying to mix it up front with these guys. I'm just not sure they can quite get to their level, but it's going to be super interesting. Then let's talk about Argentina versus New Zealand. In Argentina, the atmosphere no doubt is going to be febrile. Argentina are going to come out all guns blazing. Can they keep a lid on it, not give away too many penalties, make too many mistakes? That's probably going to be the making or breaking for Argentina. Front row, we see two absolute starters, Gallo and Montoya, the captain at hooker. Sordoni at tight head has come back into the team after a few years out, but he's still only young, 24 I think he is, and props mature a lot later, so he could well come into that World Cup squad. Two very experienced big guys in the second row, Alemano and Lavanini, who is probably best known for his red and yellow cards, but when he gets it right, he has a serious physical presence. There is a bit of a problem in the back row. Kramer has been banned in one of his last games for his club, which is a big problem. I think it's a 5-game ban, but they can still put together Matera at 6, their best 6. Gonzalez, who tends to play 6, at 7. He's really quick. He should be absolutely fine there. And a big number 8 in Bruni. So it's close to their best pack they can put out. Definitely very physical. In the backs, Bertrand gets his 50th cap, and alongside Carreras, it's a very good half-back combination. Carreras, very, very exciting fly half, that's for sure. And if they need a bit more of a steady hand, Nicolas Sanchez is on the bench as well. The centres are Cinti and Moroni. We get the Newcastle man, Matteo Carreras on one wing, Delguy of Clermont on the other wing, and then the kicking machine has been moved to the full-back position. That's Alemano, Buffelli. So it's a very, very settled team, a very strong team. They'll know each other inside out. They've got a great chance, I think, of turning over New Zealand. And talking of New Zealand, let's have a look at their team here. Definitely a few experiments, a few starters. They're not as strong as they could be, that's for sure. But it is their starting props, I think, De Groot and Lomax. But in between them is their third choice hooker, who's got a bit to prove, Dane Curls. He's very experienced, of course, but many in the comments have said maybe his performances haven't merited his place in this squad. So yeah, he's got a bit to prove. They are resting their first choice second rows, the experienced Whitelock and Retallick. In comes probably their third choice, Scott Barrett, who maybe would normally start at 6. Josh Lord, the youngster, I think he's only about 22. He could be the next big thing, but hasn't played a lot, so all change in the second row. Dane Cole's not their first choice. The back row, Frizzell gets a shot at 6 because Barrett's not there. He can play all over the back row, but Frizzell gets a shot at maybe cementing that, who knows. Kane at 7, who's been in good form, and Ardi Sevilla, their best 8 at number 8. Then we've got Aaron Smith, who is probably their starter anyway, at 9. But at 10, Damien McKenzie, who's been so impressive in Super Rugby. Maybe their best guy in Super Rugby, actually. Let's see what he can do. Outside him, he's got the first choice centre partnership, which will help him in Geordie Barrett and Rico Ioane. Then first crack in the back 3, which could change all the way through this Rugby Championship, I think. Caleb Clark, who's big and powerful, but definitely not as skillful as some of the other guys there. Narawa, who's been possibly the form winger of Super Rugby. Great to see him. And then the experienced Beauden Barrett slotting in at full-back. So, yeah, definitely a mix there between experience and guys they're trying out, guys with a point to prove. Then we've got Taylor, Tuingafasi, Laulala and Vai on the bench. Covering back row is Papali'i. Then Finlay Christie at 9, Moanga 10, and Ainor, who's been one of the most improved players in Super Rugby, covering back 3 probably into the centres. So let me know what you think of all those teams, who's going to win those games, and who's got the mix right between experience and trying out players and combinations. All the comments below, and I'll catch you next time.